Hi, everybody. It's Mike from Hear the Watchman and the Watchman Report today. And you know what? We're bringing back, because it's crucial to bring him back, Mr. Larry Nichols, the Washington insider who was explosive the other day on Lisa Haven's YouTube channel. And please, folks, support Lisa Haven. Go to just Google Lisa Haven YouTube. Support her channel as well. She's just breaking critical news each and every day. And Larry is coming on the show today to talk about some very new, interesting facts that are happening. And we have a couple of questions for him. And bear with us here, folks. He just got back from the hospital from having treatments, and he's going to do his best to get the word out. Larry, thank you so much for coming back on our show today.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me. It's so important, Mike. This is just absolutely critical. And I beg your listeners and viewers to please take heed. Please.
Well, Larry, you talked about the war at hand the other day with Lisa Haven. And I want to ask you a couple of questions and see where this goes. I mean,
yes, sir.
What can we do as patriots and Christians to get into this battle and win the battle?
Oh, Mike. And the first thing that Christians, all of us, should do is, first off, open our minds and our hearts up to the fact that something very terrible is going on. That we are in the midst. Now, folks, this is going to sound like I'm over dramatizing, and I'm not. Please believe me, I'm not. We're in the middle of a coup. It is, Mike, a silent coup. Now, when I say a silent coup, what's the difference between a silent coup and a coup? The typical coup, folks, that you have heard about all your life is the one when you have a country that has a form of government, a leadership, and somebody decides they don't want that type of leadership or that form of government anymore. So they come in and they do a couple of things. First thing they do is they take control of the military. And then once they get control of the military, they take the military, move in with the tanks and the cannons and the troops, and surround the federal buildings and surround all of the places where the government exists in that country. And they proceed to arrest and take into custody all the old leadership. And then they are in power now. That is your traditional coup. We are in what is called a silent coup. Now, Mike, I've talked about it for 3 years. Finally, a couple of months ago, even the great Rush Limbaugh finally said on the air, we're in the middle of a silent coup. What's the difference between it and a regular coup? A silent coup is one where there's not this frontal attack. They don't come in with the military and transform the government that way. No. Well, it's more hideous. They come in, Michael, and instead of the first thing you take control of, which is the military, the first thing you take control of in a silent coup is the media. When you get control of the media, you are now able to deceive the public. And they start changing attitudes and minds and hearts. And you start transforming the people. And then you make the people disgruntled, unhappy with the present form of government. And you tell them how bad the present government is and what's wrong with it. And you start manipulating the public, manipulating the people. And then eventually, guess what, Mike? He transformed the country. He transformed the government. And that's where we're at today. And the thing that triggered me to go and come out as I have the past few days, believe it or not, is Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter. Now, it's not what Ann Coulter says. You can be for her, against her. You can like what she says, not like what she says. But it's the fact that they have shut her down from being able to even talk. Now, there's a difference, folks, between what happened to Ann Coulter at Berkeley this past week, or is going on now, versus what happened with the Republican guys some months ago who spoke at Berkeley, and the antagonist shouted him down and rioted and caused all kinds of trouble. There's a difference. You know, you've seen, Mike, all of our conservative politicians going places and speaking at town halls and such and being shouted down to where they couldn't talk. That's one thing. But to literally stop somebody from being able to even appear, that is when we have stepped in the middle of critical.
Well, Larry, is this the turning point right now? Are we at the turning point where they're eliminating free speech? And can you kind of elaborate on that? Are they really trying to shut all the voices down?
Yeah, this is not a free speech issue hardly anymore. I mean, yes, it is free speech, but it's not. This is about anybody daring to say anything that this new group of people that want to transform our form of government, anybody that dare to open their mouths at all, this is about shutting them down, preventing it. This is like burning books. As I said in Lisa's program, where we are today, Mike, is similar to the day after Pearl Harbor, when they stopped Ann Coulter from even being able to speak. Not what she says, disagreeing with what she said, not shouting down what she was saying, literally stopping her from being able to even talk and appear. We're the day after Pearl Harbor. You know, folks, those of you that don't remember or know history, the day after Pearl Harbor, here's where we were. War had been declared on the United States of America by Japan. And as a matter of fact, the day after Pearl Harbor, our entire Pacific Fleet was destroyed, except for a couple of carriers and a few odd ships that were out of the attack. We had no military in the day. Our politicians of that day had stripped the military after World War I. There were more members of the Boy Scouts than there were in our military. We were in trouble deep. War had been declared. Well, folks, war has been declared on us. Here we are, the day after. And then when you add to that, Mike, what is going on that people are not paying attention to with Fox News Network. Now, I know people know about Bill O'Reilly, Roger Ailes. That's not the story at Fox. You may think it is. That's what the media wants us to believe is the story. That's not the story. The true story at Fox News is that because of the problem O'Reilly had, 50 some odd of the network's major advertisers canceled their sponsorship of the network. When they got rid of O'Reilly, Fox reorganized their programming, went back to the sponsors, thinking, of course, they would come back then. However, another interesting thing happened. The sponsors said because of all of the protests they had been receiving, that they didn't know if they were coming back to Fox at all. Why is that important?
Wow, that's just that's just stuff that's mind-boggling. Now, is this really finally are we seeing the shadow government, and is it being exposed right now?
Shadow government. I don't think it would be apropos at this point any longer to use words like shadow government, all that spooky stuff. It's not now. It's an open declaration by the people that want our form of government, a representative republic form of government in the United States of America. They want it over. They want it over. And I'm going to say, whatever you want to call this group, you call it. But it's the enemy of the United States of America, as we have all grown up and known it to be. Our enemy. Now, call them who you want to. George Soros, is that what we want to call them? Deep state, do we want to call them that? It started kind of out in the open with Barack Hussein Obama. When he became president, he made it quite clear. He wanted to transform our form of government. He said it. And he proceeded along the way to do it with various and sundry different programs and executive orders. And then we come along with Donald Trump. And we think, those of us that were against Hillary, against this liberal, socialist, whatever world you want to call it, we thought when we defeated Hillary, which is what I had been involved in for 28 years, and we got Donald Trump as our president, we thought, or many thought, that we were on the road to rebuilding our great nation. And where we're at is far different. Far different.
Well, Larry, let me ask you this. I mean, has Trump been compromised in your opinion, and have we just been completely duped?
No. Let me say this. Donald Trump, when we say the name Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, that represents many things, Mike, many things. I like to say, when you say President Donald Trump, you're talking about us. Donald Trump represents us. He was elected because of the things that he ran his campaign on. Number one, draining the swamp. We knew and have known Washington, D.C. has been the devil's playground for many, many years now. That's not our government. That's a government made up of people that believe they are the leadership class and they want to rule. They're the ruling class. We're all servants to that government. Donald Trump represented change, getting us back to where we were in charge. They worked for us. Then he said things like building a wall. We have known for many years that this incredible influx of people coming in this nation illegally, bringing with them their crime and all of the disease and everything that comes with it, was wrong. Those of us that believe we have laws, he stood against that. Donald Trump represented us. Now, yes, There are those of us that disagree with Donald Trump, his personality, some of his ways, etc., etc., etc. So I'm not trying to imply to every one of you listening to me that Donald Trump represents you and he's your guy. But it's what he represented. He was us. And then he gets to Washington. You know, I wrote the book, 28 Years to Nowhere. And in the book, I go out of my way, you know, Mike, at the end, towards the end of the book, I start telling people, Donald Trump can't do it alone. Donald Trump thought he could go in, thought he could do executive orders like Obama did. You know, he knew Congress was going to fight him, so he'd just do executive orders like Obama did. Well, there was one little shocker for Mr. Trump, President Trump. When he issued an executive order, they had federal judges lined up to overrule them, shut them down. Couldn't do it that way. Well, so then you think, well, since he's a Republican, and because of his race, and because of all of us, and the fact that Republicans have taken over state legislatures, governor's offices, you know, he'll at least have Congress. Well, no, he doesn't, as I point out in the book. His greatest enemy in Washington, D.C., Mike, isn't Nancy Pelosi, Paul Ryan, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Mitch McConnell. They're all in bed together. They're the enemy of us. And they rose up and have shut him down. So no, he's not compromised. He, meaning us, is stalemated. This government, the system, has got him and therefore us blocked. We still are not able to get control of our government, the one, Mike, that's supposed to serve us. We're still not able to.
Wow. You know, Larry, it's so interesting to talk to you. You know, I'll tell you, I have a question to follow this comment up with, but I'll tell you a little story about Nancy Pelosi. Jeannie and I, back in 2006, did a little something called, well, I'm not going to say what it was called because I'll just get slammed more for doing it. But we brought 900 widows and their children from anyone killed serving post 9/11 in Afghanistan and Iraq out to Disneyland for 4 days, all expenses paid, airfare, everything. And one day I get this call, and this woman comes on and she goes, I want to talk to you. My name is Nancy Pelosi. You know who I am? And I said, no, I have no idea who you are. And she said, well, you should know who I am. And you know, you've asked my office if we would help with your effort. And I just have to say, we're not willing we just can't take that sort of a position right now. And I said, well, okay, thank you. I still don't know who you are, but apparently you don't know who I am either. I'm the guy out there trying to bring a little joy into our heroes, our fallen heroes' families' lives. So I have zero respect for that woman whatsoever. But I got to ask you this, Larry. You know, you bring it up and you say it so eloquently that we are in a silent coup right now. And that's a war. And what do we do? What do our listeners do after they listen to this interview today? What do they do to put a stop to this?
All right. I'm glad you asked me that because that's a very difficult question to answer. First off, let's lay the playing field, if we may. A lot of people say, well, golly, the whole country voted to put Trump in. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Stop it. Stop right there. The whole country did not vote to elect Donald Trump president. Okay? It didn't. For practical purposes for this show, I'm just going to use a round number. 50% of the people voted to stop Hillary, or to vote for Donald Trump, or to stop socialism, or whatever the reason, 50% of this nation voted, which allowed Donald Trump to become president, 50%. But you have to remember, 50% of this country, Mike, voted for Hillary. Do y'all realize in the primary, this sort of sober you up, in the primary, more people voted for Hillary or for an announced, she's a communist, or for an announced socialist, Bernie Sanders, those two. More people in this country came out and voted for those two than voted for all of the Republicans total in the primary. More. If you'd have told me 20, 30 years ago that in the United States of America, more people would show up one day in an election and vote for either a known communist or a known socialist, I'd have said you were crazy, but it happened. So there is the anti-force. 50% of the people in this nation right now do not want anything to do with Donald Trump and or us, our way of thinking. Now, 50% of us voted to not have anything to do with Hillary, to which I had something to do with, I think, a little part.
I would say so.
Or to vote for Donald Trump. So now we got 50% of our group. But here's where our group breaks down. Our group is not a single group. It's not of one mind. Our 50% is made up, obviously, of different factions as well. So let's start when you trying to answer your question of what do we do. The first thing we do is we need to take inventory in this coup of our side. Who is on our side? Who? How many people, Mike, that you leave this program and go talk to will even know what you're talking about if you were to say to them, I just had a guest on, and this guest said that we were in the midst of a silent coup. How many people in our 50% group would even know what that means, what we're even talking about? How many?
I don't think many, Larry, which is why it's so crucially important, folks, that you listen to what Larry is saying here. I mean, this is important stuff, and if our voices are silenced, Larry, then it just goes on and on and on, right?
All right, that's right. So now we're taking that first little thing. You might write this down. Of our 50%, the people that are with us, at least of like mind, how many of us in our group even know we're in the midst of some type of a coup, or even what does that mean? Now, for anybody that says, well, what does a silent coup mean? Let's give them the definition. A coup is when one group is trying to change our form of government to another. Now, if you ask our side, Mike, our 50%, what form of government do we have presently? How many of our side do you say will say democracy, or will say representative republic form of government?
Boy, I wouldn't even hazard to guess at that one, Larry. What would you think?
Well, I'm afraid more going to say democracy than representative form of government. That is how dumbed down we have become over the years. That in itself is scary. That is scary. But there will be, whatever that number is, matters not at this point. You just need to explain to them a coup is simply that our form of government, whether you believe it to be a democracy or a representative form of government, our form of government is under attack by a group that want to transform us to something else. Now, you must make, folks, the people you're sharing this with understand that important point. Because if they don't, we've lost. Do y'all understand we are in right now a defining moment for our nation? We are about to lose the foundational principle by which this very nation was established, our form of government. It's not under attack. They're trying to change it. Change it. So now, you've asked the person you're talking to which side they're on, and let's say they're in our 50. We've at least tried to educate them a little bit that we are in the midst of a coup, and you've tried to explain what that is as gingerly as you can. Don't overdo it. Don't sound like a conspiracy nut. Don't go crazy. Just tell them the truth and find out where they stand. And Mike, at this point, that's what you do. And then you start spreading the word. You have to start talking to people, Mike. Start talking. You know, I mentioned Fox News. Why? Do y'all realize that the other side, that other 50%, they turn on the television, whether it be ABC, NBC, CBS, Hollywood, the movies, MSNBC, CNN, the sports channels, wherever they turn, they have a media source that is supporting the people trying to overthrow our government. Do y'all understand that? We call it the bias media. We talk about the fake news that's out there. To the majority of the people in America, folks, if the only news you get is the news that comes to you via whatever source you're listening to, the only news you're going to get, then that fake news isn't fake anymore. It's real. It's real. Our side, our 50%, do you realize, Mike, other than the internet and programs like this, when you turn on the television, do you realize we got one gathering place for all of us to go to? One. That's Fox News Network.
Well, that's
it.
That's it, and that's the sad thing, Larry. That truly is the sad thing. That's why people like me, that's why people like Lisa Haven, Lynn Leah,
right.
John B. Wells, the Hagmans, that's why we're trying to get our voice out there to offer people the truth. Now,
That's
folks,
right. But now let me ask you this, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take the people on our side that are age 50 and down. We can reach them, thank God, through you and Lisa and John B., etc. We can. Those people are used to, at least, being able to get information from the internet. Agreed?
Agreed.
What about 70 plus people? Age 70 plus.
Hard to reach, brother, because all they're seeing is the stuff that's on mainstream, unfortunately. Now,
all they're seeing is what's on television, and the only source on television for them to see that might get them the news as we might portray it is Fox News Network. Let me tell y'all a little fact. When Fox News can't get those 50 sponsors back, you're going to see Fox News start changing. You are. You're going to see Fox News become like all the others. For those of you that think Rupert Murdoch is a conservative, true and true, you're wrong. He goes where the money is.
That's a very good point, Larry. And what I want to encourage all those viewers of this show that are in that range that Larry just mentioned, 50 and below, tell your parents, tell your grandparents about our show and about Lisa Haven's show and about John B. Wells' show. Because I'll tell you a little story. There is a gentleman that's now been to two Hear the Watchman conferences who was actually on the beaches of Normandy during D-Day, and he's totally awake now. You get in conversation with him about what really went on during that invasion and what happened there and what a tragedy took place, even though we're not taking anything away from any hero that was there on that beach or fought in World War II, as my father did for our freedom. What I'm saying to you is he was reached because his son happened to find out about the Hear the Watchman conferences. And now he's coming again to Boise, Idaho, August 18th through 21st. So folks, what Larry is saying is crucial, absolutely crucial information. We're going to have him back on our show again in a couple of weeks for further updates, because he has his finger on the pulse of what is going on. He's been in Washington.
Let me say this.
Absolutely.
Mike,
go ahead.
Get off here, please. Now, folks, in line with what Mike's saying, it's our responsibility, those of us that do know how to use the internet, I'm begging you, introduce them to Mike and Hear the Watchman. Introduce them, help them. Set up their system to where they push a button and it goes to it. You're going to have to help them, because you're not going to get there if you don't. This program, Lisa's, John B., etc., these programs are going to be the lifeline to saving this nation if it's to be saved. And if we don't do it, this nation's lost, because there will be no way for us to communicate with each other. You heard me today, thanks to Mike. You heard me day before yesterday with Lisa, thanks to Lisa. If it weren't for these people, you wouldn't know what I got to say at all. And it's really not about what I got to say. Read this stuff for yourself. Look at it for yourself. This is happening. I didn't shut down Ann Coulter. Mike didn't. We didn't. We didn't make it up, certainly. And I'll tell you something else, Mike. If it weren't for Fox News Network, you wouldn't even know she had been blocked from speaking.
Yeah, amen. Amen to that, Larry. And listen, folks, the book, I'm holding it up right now, 28 Years to Nowhere. If you don't do anything else for yourself, buy this book. You can go on to, I believe it's 28yearstoNowhere.com, get Larry's story. It's fascinating, it's enlightening, and it's in my opinion, a must read if you're one of us. So Larry, God bless you for everything you're doing. We're all praying for you and your health. I appreciate the fact that you rushed home from the hospital today to join us on this show.
Well, you bet. And I must come back if you'll let me while I can, because we're running out of time. And we didn't get to the action part of what we've got to do. But the first part of the action, Mike, is your job. We've got to spread the word that this is happening. People don't know.
Amen. And let's spread that word, folks. Get it out there. We're going to have Larry on our show again next week, and we'll delve into that action plan that we need to put into place. Gives him some time to really put it together, and let's actually do something and change something. So I want to thank all of you. Again, thank you, Larry, for joining us. Each and every one of you who support this channel by subscribing to it and support Lisa Haven and John B. Wells and Doug and Joe Hagman. Thank you all so much. We're here for you. Continue to support us. Go to hearthewatchmenmen.com. Check out our next conference in Boise, Idaho, August 18th through 21st, where we'll go out and actually pray and view the total eclipse of the sun together, as well as have a conference with information like the information that Larry is so selfishly imparting on us today. So God bless each and every one of you. We'll see you the next time on the Watchman's Report. Hey, Larry.